Alright, so let's hop ourselves back in here. Alright, so this should be the page we're all up on, and I think I only saw one desktop before, so that's grand. Alright, so last session, of which I think the majority of us came, let's have a quick show of hands. Anyone not able to make it to the Dyknow Vision session around a couple of months ago? Okay, only a couple. Okay, that's great. Well, I'm going to be doing some revision towards the end of this session over some of the things we ran through last session, so I will recover some things. So last session we were looking at Dyknow Vision, and these were mostly our top tools there. So that is Manage Panels, which is really our workhorse of the program in terms of students doing work within Dyknow. Working groups to give us collaborative functionality as well. Poll participants, chat, share control, all those sort of things. Hearing a number of sounds going off as well. Oh, and it's on my screen as well. No, we'll go away from that. Thanks, Windows. We don't need that. All right. So this time around, we're actually looking at the other half of the program, which is Monitor. And Monitor, where Vision looks mostly at lesson delivery and instruction, Monitor is mostly concerned with classroom management and behavior and things like that. So our top tools are a little bit different. View screen, attention plans, blocking and closing applications, things of that nature instead. I'm just going to quickly assess all our understanding so I know we're all ready to go on, so we should be familiar with this. I've just requested status on everyone's screen. So if we can quickly tell me how we're traveling with Dyknow. I'll let student Harris over here be a bit of a dunce. There we go. Student Harris just doesn't get it. So I'm just waiting on a couple, student Rosen and student Wang. Alright, so we're all filled in. And there's only one of us who doesn't really understand terribly well, and that's me. So we'll just have to move on from there. Alright, so moving us on. The main strength of Dyknow Monitor is that it gives us both proactive and reactive tools, so we can respond to things on the fly, but we can also nip a number of potential problems in the bud before they actually are problems. So it gives us the tools for controlling that. It also means we have the chance to scale our response, so it's not always the atomic hammer slamming in every time for a minor transgression. For minor transgressions, we have some strategies. For things which are a little bit more serious, we have tools for dealing with that as well. So whatever it is, we can scale our response accordingly. And of course, it gives us both information and control, which really helps us in terms of, well, hopefully overcoming some of the fear of bringing ICTs into a classroom. All right. So our major one, which we're probably already familiar with, is our view screen. So let me just quickly hop into the monitor end here. So this gives me the thumbnail of what everyone is seeing right now. And this refreshes in close to real time. I say close to, in that there is some delay. And so sometimes you may see students doing things wrong, but they may actually have jumped on from that, and it may not have refreshed in time. So we do need to be cognizant it's not 100% real time. That's mostly just to preserve the school network, because if it's constantly screencasting student screens, that's eating up a lot of internal bandwidth. So that's basically the reason. But from within here, I have a number of tools. For example, I can look at student Robertson's page, and that'll bring it on up, and that's what we're seeing on there. So this is just our means to monitor everything that's going on within going on within our class. Thank you. Now, if a student did happen to be doing anything inappropriate, for example, doing online games or looking at inappropriate sites, within here we actually have a step up in terms of monitoring this sort of behavior, which is capturing screenshots. So this particular one with "Hi You" written on it, I'm just about to take. So I just got up here to capture screenshot. Again, I'm sorry, we'll need to look on our main monitor just because the way monitor is set up, we're not able to do it on both this one here. So I'm just going to capture screenshot, and I then have the option of either dropping it into a new notebook. Now, that would be the option we'd choose if, for example, it were an inappropriate site or it was a game and we want to be starting to collect some evidence for dropping into student tracking software in terms of behavior management or anything like that. It just helps with things like parental interviews or something where we actually have something to bring to the table, images, etc. So some extra evidence. So we can drop that into a new notebook. If it's the positive end of this capture screenshot, which I should particularly mention, say we've actually sent students off on a web quest and they found a particularly interesting website, we can actually capture a screenshot of that website and drop it into the current class notes. Although we can use this for sanction, it does also have a positive lesson delivery use as well. So I'm going to do that, just remaining positive. And I'm going to put this into all of our notebooks, so we're now all going to get this brand new screenshot in there, bidding us all good day and a smiley face. So that's capture screenshot. It's a tool with which we may already be familiar. So the way we get into it is we pick one of our students we want to start look at. Let's hop back into monitor, sorry. So we pick one of our students we want to have a look at, student Harris over there. It opens up there, and then we get our controls up there, and there's capture screenshot. Cool. Any questions on, or shall I just move on?
With the notebook, can you send that to a student notebook that you've already got? Like if you're collecting...
You can send it to a new notebook. I think there's also the provision for a notebook that is currently open on your tabs. You can send it to one that's already open. Cool. All right, let me jump us on. Stop viewing there. And bring us back. All right. So we're now on to attention and attention plans. This is probably the other one with which people are already somewhat familiar, perhaps. This is our chance to be either proactive or reactive, depending on how we're using the tool. For example, say I want to be talking right now. I'm not going to select any student. I'm just going to there we go. So that means I can now talk, and you can try typing away if you want to, but really, you're not going to achieve a whole lot. The same goes for moving mice or touch screen or anything like that. Basically just locking out input devices on the computers. So in terms of being a proactive strategy, I mean, it can be so annoying to say, okay, hands off keyboards or whatever, or eyes up here. If there's nothing to type, well, there's no point typing or mousing, then it's just a good strategy for stopping that sort of thing.
So what did you click on?
Oh, I'm just going to show again.
Okay, sorry.
So I'm just going to remove I'm going to remove that plan again, so you should all now be able to mice away freely if you choose. So there's also the option for completely removing everything on the screen as well. So I'm going to quickly show how I set that up again. So it's up here in attention. We click the drop down arrow and go set up plans. If I just click it to just go apply attention, it'll apply the last plan just set up. In this case, lock keyboards. Yep. If I want something a bit more involved, I can go set up plans. I'm not only going to lock input devices, I'm also going to blank everyone's screens, so that you have nothing to look at and you've got nothing to touch. Yep, so again, this is, the thumbnails haven't quite updated. I should quickly say, there is a refresh button up here, where we can prompt a refresh of the thumbnails to actually update it as well. We can also just hit F5, just because, oh, I only refreshed that one student. Let me refresh everyone. So we do also have that refresh button. There we go. A whole lot of black screens greeting us. Cool. Let me just remove that attention plan from there. But those are attention plans. Generally pretty useful for just stopping the entire class doing anything while you want to be talking, or just stopping the end of an activity. There's also the option of, say a particular student is misbehaving. So who's our misbehavior?
Mr. Vanson.
That sounds right to me. I can actually choose to apply it just to this student.
I would.
So we'll notice that everyone else is free, but I just picked on one person here. And again, that can be exactly the same locking keyboard, or we can even tailor a particular message. I just got the standard attention, please. Someone in the first session was mentioning she caught a student attempting to look up horse floats, purchasing horse floats, and so there was a particular message for why on earth are you looking at horse floats? Attention, and then sent that on through, and suddenly all they get is a black screen and a question, and then a guilty face. I will say, whenever you just click attention, please, without the arrow, it will just apply the last used plan. So if you have just done a horse float related one or some other personal one, do go through and change it so you don't broadcast to the entire class why you're looking at horse floats, or whatever it happens to be. All good. And let me release all Mr. Vance's there. All right, so that's attention plans. Any questions on it before we move on?
If they've got Internet Explorer or something open that they've got to have that link open for something else, and your attention plan blocks Explorer or whatever the programming is, will that just freeze it, and then when you undo it, they can go about whatever it is, or will it turn it off?
All it does is it locks out the input device and blanks the screen. Everything's still there in the background. If you do want to be stopping things like Internet Explorer, we're about to cover a tool that does that too. Anything else on this one? Grand, let's jump on. All right, so we also get the chance to look at the next step up, of which we have both reactive and proactive tools. I've currently got it set so we can't be doing bad things, but now I'm going to give us about 30 seconds to start getting our pages off topic. I will say I can see everything up here, so don't make it inappropriate, but we are allowed to get off topic and open different programs now. Okay, so we'll be seeing that all my thumbnails are starting to change. There's a whole bunch of browsers coming up and the like. I'm seeing Leo in a thumbnail somewhere. Alright, so let me just pick on one person right now. Let's go up here. So I'm seeing some inappropriate activity going on as we're looking at Sydney Morning Herald. Students looking up the news. Anyway, I might have an aversion to students looking up news and current affairs. So we're going to get rid of this. Close applications. I can either choose to close visible applications, or I can select. I'm just going to close Internet Explorer here. Goodbye. Ooh. Now because we had multiple tabs, they're going to get this safe message. I'm going to be even harsher and go forced close. That means they don't get these little messages, it just closes it down. So if students do happen to have something inappropriate open, I'm just going to go back because I'm pretty sure everybody now does by now. So let me quickly go. Okay. So that really is the atom bomb then, because that's closed down everything. Normally you wouldn't apply anything like select visible applications to close, because as you see, I've just logged everyone out, most people out of Dyknow, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so that really is the atom bomb, but I did want to show it so we can see the impact of it. Do we want to quickly just hop ourselves back into Dyknow and we can keep going? What?
My whole desktop's in white. Can you not just go yes? And join session.
Oh, and let me get ourselves back in over here as well. All right. So we're seeing people come back in. Is everyone back in by now? Anyone still not able to get in? All right. In terms of that, we can see that that's actually, well, that really is just when we wouldn't normally apply it across an entire class for a start. You'd actually have one student who's got too many things open, and instead of going through and selecting individually, you can just close them all. As you can see, though, it can be quite damaging. It's better to be proactive than reactive with a tool that strong. So we'll actually go into the other end of the tool, which is block applications. So rather than closing everything that's open, or saying they're on a browser, close it down, because then they'll just reopen it. Instead of doing that, we'd actually have block applications. So if I click my drop-down arrow here and go set up plans, I've actually got a list of different plans which are already pre-programmed into Dyknow, ready to go. So the one I had on before was allow only Dyknow. You also got Dyknow and Word, or you can create a Dyknow and OneNote, or there's already a OneNote only already as well. So you don't even need to be in Dyknow for this to be useful. You can actually just go, we're in class now, OneNote only, thanks. And that means students can't be browsing. It basically just removes that functionality from their machines. So if I set myself on to allow only Dyknow, and that's what we were before. So we can now have a go at trying to open up some of those browsers or whatever it happened to be. But it's, there we go. Obviously it's not possible to do. All right. Any questions on block applications or close applications? There's a couple of things I'll go to in a little bit more depth. I was just wondering if there are any questions before I did. Okay. With regards to close applications, when we do and select applications to close, we have the option there for either safe close or forced close. That's for things like, say we are like, okay, we're coming towards the end of the class, everyone should be starting to shut down their Word. You can actually get it set to safe close, which means that students, say they're in Word and they're typing away, it'll say close, and they'll get the prompt saying, Word is about to close, would you like to save? And so that's the safe close. Forced close is, it's ending. One way or another, it's ending. So, so they need to make, so you would probably want to give a, that's more a punitive thing with the forced close, whereas safe close is class is ending. Force close can also be used for getting around Internet Explorers. You're closing multiple tabs. Did you want to do that? Force close will always answer, yes, I do. In terms of adding additional applications, up here we just go add application. It takes a moment just to populate the list. These are some that I've just added as little sample ones. But say, for example, Adobe. I want to be able to stop students... Oh, sorry, Adobe Master Collection, here we go. I want to be able to stop students doing things in Dreamweaver, damn their coding, in which case I can then add that as a list to programs I can auto-close. And it really is that simple. For block applications, I'm not going to terminate this time. For block applications and creating those plans, so I'm just going to do, again, the drop-down thing here and go set up plans. So these ones here with the asterisks can't be edited. We can, however, set them as default if we want to. So if we want for our classes to start with allow only Dyknow started, we absolutely can. The ones without asterisks are ones which I've created, and so I can then apply. So this one here I've edited, so I'm just going to add some extra ones in here. I've got the choice, as we can see up here, for allow all or block all. So I can either go block all, but with these exceptions, Dyknow, Word, and OneNote. Or I can go allow all, except whichever programs we particularly don't want students to have. Cool. So that's the way we set up the plans, and it's the same thing. You just go find the one you want, add it to the list, save. There you go. Any questions? Okay. We're very quiet. Is it the microphone?
Just on that screen, can you pre-save separate?
Yes, absolutely. So if I go back from here, in addition to edit, I've also got new, and I can just create brand new plans, call them what I want to. Yeah.
So does that say when it's block all, everything's blocked, we can't block Outlook? Is that what you're saying?
This block, well, you can see this is a brand new one.
Oh, so we can make it up then.
So you can make it whatever you would like to. So it's plan exceptions, and you choose what those exceptions are to be. Whether it's exceptions to being blocked or exceptions to being allowed. Okay. All right, let's bring us back on session. All right. This tool isn't quite as useful, mostly because of its functionality. Filter URLs, most of the time when we don't want students browsing, we'll probably just have a control plan up saying no Internet Explorer, or Chrome if the student happens to have Chrome installed, or Firefox or whatever. But if, say, they are off on a web quest and they're only supposed to be in a particular site, we can organize it so that is the only site they'll be able to see. However, we can't set it so there are particular sites they can't. It is block all except rather than allow all except, if that makes sense. It only comes with the option one way. So let me quickly show us how we get it set up. So we're in here for monitor. I'm going to go filter URLs. I've already got one here called Wiki Research. So I've just applied that to everyone's computers. If you want to try and get into Internet Explorer now, you'll be able to go to Wikipedia, but that's all. That's the only site I've allowed through this particular filter. Of course, I've got block applications on as well. Have another go. Sorry. I've got too much power. Well, you can try a different web page if you wish to see what it looks like when it's blocked, or you can go wikipedia.org, and that should come through. Though I will say it may look a little different. That's because some of the images may be linked outside the Wikipedia domain, and so it won't be able to access those images. Of course, they won't make it through the filter. So if we know there are sites that we want students to be visiting, we can create them in a filter, and only those sites can be visited. Sadly, though, we can't do it the other way. But that said, that's exactly what school site filtering is for, basically filtering out particulars. Any questions? I'll now just quickly show us how we set that up if we like. Alright, so I'm going to turn it off, and then I'm going to show us how we set it up. So down here, set up plans. So this is what it looks like when we're setting up the plans. It's very, very similar to the block applications we saw just before. So if I go into this wiki research one here and edit it, we can see that I've got, it's very hard to see, I'm sorry, from the distance. In fact, how about I do it this way? Alright, so we do the drop-down thing here. We then go into set up plans. There it is. Alright, I'm going to pick this wiki research one here and edit it, just so we can see what it looks like inside. There we go. Alright, now we can see it says asterisk.wikipedia.org. We can put in any website we want to with www.anything. If we do oh, this one, when I release this from broadcast screen, you might want to make a note of. If we use it with www. It is going to allow only that site. Meaning, if we put in www.news.com.au or whatever, it would enable you to go to the home page, but none of the successive pages underneath it. It would allow only that page. None of its slash whatever. If I put in asterisk dot, it allows the sub-pages as well, anything under that domain. So most of the time you probably want to use asterisk. I'll release this from broadcast screen now. Stop broadcast. There we go. So if you do want to, on your own notebooks, you may want to make a note of that.
Just a quick question on the private notes. Is there a way I can type those?
You can just drop the text box in.
Oh.
No, it's reviewing the students' stages.
All right. Any questions on filter URLs? As I said, it is more of a situational use because it is a opt-in rather than opt-out, if that makes sense. Oh, okie dokie. All right. This one is the true A-bomb. From here, I just shut down your machine. I'm not going to right now, of course, because setting that up again, we already saw how painful it was just trying to get all the programs back in. But this is, there's been a major transgression. You'd probably screen capture the screen, and then you would shut that machine down. But it really does need to be a major transgression. As it says, I use it pretty sparingly. Most of the time, screen capture, lock out of the keyboard, and then a word on the side is probably sufficient. This the need to terminate a machine very rarely comes up. We should just be aware of it, I guess. In terms of its use, again, I just need to make sure I don't accidentally use it right now. Oh, I haven't even turned on block applications. There we go. Allow only Dyknow. If I were to go shut down machines, it's going to give me the option of shut down, restart, or sign off. So, again, something to use sparingly, except it does also have the positive thing of speeding up classes in that you can just be at the end of the lesson saying, everyone's machine is going to turn off in 2 minutes, please make sure your work is saved. If you are in a lab or something similar, and rather than going, has everyone shut off their computers now, please? you can just say, all right, everyone's computer's going off. So it can just be a time saver, particularly when you know the bell's about to go. So it does have its positive uses as well. Cool. But yeah, it is just shut down, restart, and sign off. Someone asked before if there's a sleep function, but there isn't currently. All right. Cancel. Not okay. There we go. No one gets rebooted. There is also the other bomb, which is... Let me broadcast this screen so I can show it. Okay. Oh, wait, no, that's not going to work because you're just going to see my screen showing me your screen. How cyclical. Let's turn that off. All right, you're just going to need to watch up on the big screen, I'm sorry. All right, so I'm just going to go in over here so I can see a student's screen. All right. Now, within here, I might see inappropriate activity, so I can just go here, remote control. So from here, I can now move their mouse around, and I have control over the screen. I will say this is somewhat situational compared to some of the other tools, in that it doesn't disable the student's control. So you can have mouse wars going on. Oh, this way, no, this way, no. So as I said, it is somewhat situational. There are probably better tools for if you are wanting someone to stop doing something or to close applications. You've already got tools for that, and it's attention plans and it's close applications. So this is somewhat situational, but that said, it can be useful for a student could chat up to you saying, sir, ma'am, I'm just not sure where I'm supposed to be. And you can go, all right, remote control, open this application, here, this page, now you're on task. So you can just do it for a quick thing like that. However, things like the delay between my mouse and student mouse, we can see it does take a while to shift. Does make it a little bit clunky for anything in a more sanctioned nature. But it is there as a tool, so I just want us to be aware of it. Thoughts, questions, comments? Okay. Let me turn off remote control and I'll give you your computer back, and I'll stop putting you up. All right. And above there. All right. That actually takes us out of the majority of classroom management tools. As I said, we've got a variety of tools there with which we can scale our response, whether it is something as simple as you don't get to use your keyboard or mouse anymore until I've had to talk to you, or whether it is, I need to close down the applications or block them. We've got a suite of tools we can use depending on the situation. So now we get on to some of the more positive classroom delivery stuff. This is something I know I ran through probably a bit more speedily last session. And this is send and request files. I've included it today just because it is part of Monitor, so just in the sense of being thorough. So where we would use manage panels for work within Dyknow, send files and request files is for doing work outside of Dyknow. So I'm not sure if I actually have any files on this machine. Let me quickly create one. Word. Yes, we do have Word. Great. I'm just going to call this worksheet on the desktop. Great. So hopping back in here, I want everyone to be doing this worksheet when they get home. So I'm just going to, there it is, it's right there. I'm going to send it all to you now. It's going to save onto, I'm going to quickly run through it all step by step. We do that and we select the file. We're then in here. We choose whereabouts we want to save it. I can actually I can choose anywhere on the student's computer where this file will land. It can be on their desktop or in their My Documents, which will probably be the two most commonly used places. But we can also go for a more elaborate folder if we choose. I'm just going to put this one on your desktop for now, so you may delete it out at your leisure. I've also got the option to tick here. In addition to saving it on the student's machine, I can also get it to open immediately. So if I now go send, you're all going to get a Word document saved onto your desktop, which is immediately going to open.
Can you show what that was again? Or just the second
Yes,
one?
absolutely. So it's up here at the top, which is send files. So I'll just quickly show it all the steps through again. So we go send files. We then pick the file we would like. In this case, it was that worksheet document. Right there. I can save it to desktop or my documents, and I can choose to set it to launch on opening if I wanted to. So,
I didn't get it.
oh, dum dum.
Probably.
There's always. Oh, what's on? It should be, but your word doesn't seem to
Block.
be. Have I turned off that block applications or? Yeah, block applications is off. Yeah, Word doesn't seem to be opening on your machine. The file happens to be there. Oh, did other people get the Word opening file? Oh, excellent. Interesting. I wonder if that's a Word issue. All right. So I'll quickly set. Oh, I'll get you all to send that worksheet back to me now through request files. Oh, does anyone have any questions on send files while we do that? We're good. Okay.
What happens if you just closed it?
And deleted it, or? Well, you can send me another file then. I'll be okay with that. So I go in here into my monitor again and go request files. And it gives me a message I would like to have, and this says, please submit your files to Harris Sam. I could have probably a more situation-specific thing for, can you please give me your X assignment or homework for this day or whatever it happens to be. But if I now send this request, you'll get up on your screens a request for files once you hop into your Dyknow. So you should have your Dyknow window here, and you'll also have this other Dyknow icon here, which is my monitor request file. So from there, you just, that worksheet, did that come through fine?
No, I'm restarting the computer, but it's got 30 updates. So
Oh, if you just want to look on for now then.
All
Alright, okay, we've got one from student left. Oh, and a few bunch more worksheet.docx. We can also see coming through on my screen the students who have submitted files. One participant cancelled the file request.
Yes, that was me.
This is something that is a live file request though. It's not something we can do offline. This is something to be done within a class environment.
So when you get it, where does it go?
Great question. It actually automatically drops it into this folder here. If I want, I've got this thing for view folder, but it also gives me the link as well. One thing that the people at Dyknow have received a bit of request for is, can we be given the option to specify the folder rather than it just going to this default folder? So there has been that given as a request to Dyknow for future updates, so fingers crossed it is implemented. So I'm just waiting on Loveridge. Kraus has decided not to play along, and Harris, no, that Harris. Alright, but I would then close that on down, and I can then access that and mark it at my leisure. So, as an alternative to students emailing your work, and it's you seeing which ones are coming through, and it all dropping it in one folder for you, it's pretty strong.
What's the size? Could you send like if they did a PowerPoint for each other, send like a picture, could you handle the size of that?
Generally, that should be fine. But remember, of course, the the larger the file, the slower it's going to be, and the more your network's going to suffer. So. But yeah, I wouldn't be sending hour-long video files over this, for example. But yeah, so it really is intended more for worksheets and stuff like that. If it is going to be things like PowerPoint demonstrations or OneNote packages, you're probably better off putting those up in the portal and having students download direct, I would say. All right. Any questions on request files? So if I were to now go to this folder, I should see that stacked with all the student work. And we notice, even though you all gave it to me as different file names, it's automatically named each of them according to your student name. So you know exactly which worksheet came from whom. Let's close that down. I know there's someone who hasn't submitted, Harris. All right. So that's send and request files. All right, 2 speed tools. These are also within Monitor, and I'm pretty sure I covered them last time, but I'm going to go over them again because they're very handy. We have the option here for opening URLs or opening applications. Rather than me going, can everyone please go to X website, I just open it for you. Sticking with Wikipedia, let's hop in here. Open URL, and let's go wikipedia.org. There we go. So particularly for long URLs that are quite specific, just being able to open that immediately on students' devices is very handy. Because your other options are either to write it out on the board, or pop the link up on the portal and get students to go into the portal and then follow the link from there, when you can actually just launch their browser directly into that link. Again, this doesn't need to be done while you're in a Dyknow session. You can actually be doing like a OneNote session. You just be in your Dyknow and send it out to students. You don't need to be running a Dyknow Vision session to be doing things like this. Cool. Does anyone want me to run over the open URL thing again, or? Yeah. So that was just, we just click open URL. You type in the URL you would like to be opened and go OK, and that'll immediately launch the browser. The other option is open applications. So just as before, we have a list. We can choose to add applications into this list depending on the ones we most frequently use. For example, I might want everyone to open GeoGebra or Word. I'm going to get everyone to quickly open up Photoshop. And so I could even have locked everyone out of their machines. While I'm still talking, I just launch Photoshop on all your computers, so I'm still giving my briefing while Photoshop opens. It's all ready to go. But it's also great for students who may not necessarily be that great at finding where applications are on their machine. Like, where's Photoshop? Well, it's part of the Adobe Master Collection. Adobe? Like Reader? No. When you can actually just go, there's Photoshop, it's open, let's continue. So just in terms of speeding up Classroom. So in terms of adding extra applications to our list, from here we can go add application, and it is just as before. It'll populate the list, we find the application we want, and add it to our list of applications we use. Cool. Questions, thoughts, comments? Cool. Okay, let's get rid of that. And back to you, session. All right. I'm going to, in a moment, give us the chance to log off these student accounts so we can then log on with our teacher accounts so we can actually have a bit of a play in Monitor. As I said, originally the idea was to have these as our student ones and then you could have teacher ones, so you could be doing all the way through this. Unfortunately, these are all installed with 5.5, which means they don't work with Windows 8. Or rather, they do for Vision, but not for Monitor. I wouldn't have been able to show you pretty well everything you've got today. There you go. But just before I do, there's the things here in Vision that I know I ran through last session. So I'll just give a quick recap. Then I'll let us all log off our student IDs, jump in with our teacher codes, I'm going to give us about... We're actually running quite well for time. Maybe about 20 minutes or so. Maybe even a little longer, just to run through some of the things in Monitor. Maybe look at building some setup plans for block application plans or filter URL plans. Have a bit of a play with attention, please, etc. Then I'm going to give us a mock lesson using Dyknow, just so we get a chance to run through what a Dyknow lesson can look like if we want to be using a variety of these different sort of tools. So, in terms of the things we already covered in Dyknow Vision, follow me, we know, is the thing that's been forcing you to keep pace with me as I go through my notes. You're keeping track with me with the notes as well. You've got with the tick, we know we've got the chance to go back if we want to, never forward. But as soon as I change, you're automatically aligned. Chat, we haven't really looked at a whole lot today, and there's probably a few too many features for me to fully recap right now, but you should be aware of it as a feature. It's very useful. Broadcast screen, well, we saw that one in action just so I could send my screen onto all your machines. That's mostly useful for when you need to follow my mouse movements. I wouldn't use it for things like video. The screen delays would just kill it. Request status, of course, we used at the start. Working groups, we are going to get a chance during our mock lesson at the end of this session to have a bit of a go working in groups. And the same with managed panels, which, as I mentioned before, really is the workhorse of Dyknow Vision. It really is where you're going to be doing the majority of your taking in student work, moving it into the current program so you can, into the current notebook so you can then discuss it in class. Polls, of course, is one of the features that teachers often love. Features that teachers, good phrase, often love, just because you can do little one-off polls in the middle of your lesson. Replay and share control. Share control I will be showing a little bit later. Replay I won't, but if we want to have a bit of a play with it during this next 20 minutes block, then by all means. Any questions before I get us all to log off our student IDs, log on our stuff? I'll just be filtering on around to take any one-on-one questions as well. Wonderful, let's break off. Alright, so we're back on. Hopefully we enjoyed the chance to actually just go a little bit hands-on with Monitor. Anyone make any good discoveries? Or anything similar?
I love the send URLs. Like I just felt like I googled something and then just copied that URL and you send great things and it popped up, which was really helpful just because that's the way I think sometimes like there's a question look up this one.
Oh, great.
So the kids have it.
Oh, that's great. As well as discovering students who even though they're on holiday, may not be doing what they're supposed to be doing, as we have discovered a little of. Well, there we go. All right, so I'm about to run just a mock lesson, just running through a bunch of the Monitor and the Vision tools, just showing the sort of things we can or may wish to do with Dyknow. So just to start off, of course, I need to get myself set. So we set our plan, so I'm blocking all applications that aren't Dyknow. In my session, I make sure that we're set to follow me, so we're moving along. For chat, I'm going to make sure it's participant to moderator, so if anyone does want to chat, I'll see it, but no one else at this stage. Let's get going. Alright, so we're looking at this poem. It should be on all our screens, so we don't necessarily need to look up here. So the first stanza of a quite well-known poem, of course. But what does it mean? Because in terms of the words that are there, not many of them are in common usage because they are made up. They are made up words. And from them, I guess we need to infer or imply meaning. So just looking at our first lot of words, and I don't have a stylus on that machine, so I'm actually going to need to bring another one across. Oh, this is scarcely ideal. All right. So if we look at the first line, give me my highlighter.
Sam, you can unhook it from the machine itself. There's a little one.
Yeah, a little catch.
So you catch it.
On the lanyard bit.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, we all learned something. I learned something about lanyards. All right. Oh, that's so much better. All right. So looking in here, we can go Twas, well, actually, twas probably is a real word. So I was about to get something wrong. Twas, of course, we know is a contraction of it was. However, brillig, we can look at there. 'Twas brillig and the slithy toads. There we go. So that's looking through. Those are our made-up words in the first line. Anyone care to make a comment on the second line? Who'd like to pick out the words that are made up in the second line for me? Ooh, what a tumbleweed moment.
Gyre, Gimbal, and Wobbly.
All right, let me quickly hop into this for us. So, you want to do that for us?
Sure. Just highlight it.
Just highlight it. So, if you want to take a look, and so we have.
Do you not need to say okay?
I clicked apply, so it should go. So we have Gaia or Jaya, Gimbal, and Wave as our three made-up ones in the second. All right, and right, okay. So those are our. Let me quickly turn that off. There we go. All right. Anyone want to have a go for the third line?
Nimsy and Borgos.
What was your surname? Sorry.
Longfield.
There we go. Would you like to do that for us?
So as you're broadcasting the screen,
Oh, I'm not broadcasting my screen.
I'm sorry, as you're like giving control,
Mhm.
like could I on my own screen be highlighting what I want to highlight as well?
Yes, definitely.
Highlighter. Oh, I see. Sorry.
Oh, good.
Cross it out with
Yes. While your share control is not.
erase.
Sorry, I'll correct that, but my highlighter wasn't working.
Really?
Mimsy and Boragos. Yes. Excellent. To answer the question, yes, students can still be writing on, like if everyone else, let me just quickly turn off that now. If everyone else is writing on their books now, so if you want to have a quick just sketch for yourselves. So you'll see that, of course, you are still able to sketch, but it's not coming up here. So every student has their own individual copy, but I can share control for our global copy as well. Cool. So that's the share control tool. So just in terms of, obviously, teacher practice, I've just done the teacher modeling where I do it first, then 2 rounds of student modeling. Then I would probably send this, this fourth line off for student action with feedback. So I would get the class to do this one now. So we'd have Moam, Rats out grade, I dare say. And then we would discuss it before, of course, Mimsy and Boragos. There we go. So this is one we're going to be doing individually. So it's exactly the same activity as the one we've just modelled. So we're looking at, and as in offish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame. Which of these words are made up? Alright. Does anybody need more time? Have we all highlighted our made up words within this stanza? Alright, I'm going to take that work in. So if we can go into session, submit panels. Okay, we can also see populating down my right-hand side there in the session list, I can see which students have submitted. So I can see that we're still a couple of people short. So just, Harris, you're holding out on me. Alright, now I'm going to then save this to a new notebook because I'm going to come through and mark this later. It's not something I'm going to be looking at now. So we'll append that to a new notebook. There it is. And I can look at it now if I wish, and we can see that down the bottom here, we can see that it's watermarked with all the students' names, so when I mark it I can see to which student it belongs. But we're not going to be looking at that now. What we're going to do now is, so this is our original copy, and as in Offish thought he stood, I'm going to be asking us what we think our definition of whiffling is. What is our definition of whiffling? If we were to come up with a definition for what the word whiffling means in this context, what is it? We don't need to call it out. I'm going to let us write it up. What's our definition for whiffling? So if we hop into our chat, which is on the far right, down the bottom, you'll have a chat button. Ooh, wafting briskly. All right, just another few seconds of us pooling our ideas. All right. Oh, I've just switched your chat off now, so there we go. So if we have a look at the sort of answers that are coming through on our screen, we're seeing a lot of repeating things of whistling, but also a whole bunch of things like with the wind as well is a noticeable theme. How did we come at those kind of definitions for a word that has no meaning?
This is a bird whiff.
Absolutely. So we're likening it to words of which we're already aware, I guess. Absolutely. And what about the context in which it is in the poem? How does that inform our definition? And of course, as a teacher, I'd probably draw this out a little bit more, but we're not really learning Jabberwocky, we're learning Dyknow. But there we go. All right, what we're now going to do, now that we've had the chance to pool ideas on definitions, talk it through, well, it's now time to do some group work. So, oops, I'm typing in chat rather than appending panels. Let's append panels instead. There we go. So we're actually going to be working on these two definitions. One for mimsy and one for offish. All good? So for this, what we need to do is, as a group, we need to decide on a definition for each of these words and explain how we arrived at them and how they make sense in the context of the poem. So I'm going to now get this set up ready for groups. So let's hop in here, working groups. There are 13 of us, so I'm going to put it into groups. So I'll make 4 groups for now. Oops. We are going to work only on panels. Oh. Yes, randomly make them. Thank you. Limit to only panels 16 and 17, which of course are these 2 panels there, so those are the only ones that are collaborative. And apply that. Alright, I'm now also going to turn on chat to all, and that will activate group chat for everyone. So now we will now have group chat within our group, which I can still see as moderator, of course, so, and it's still being recorded for those people who are going to be viewing the session later, so be good. Hello, group people indeed. So we can either drop a text box into these grey areas here, or we can just handwrite, whichever is easiest for us. We can scroll back up to see the 2 poems if we want to have a look at the context. We have free roaming. And while on here, this is where I look at monitor so I can see what everyone is, have a look how everyone is working. As any good teacher would, I am going to give a time on this activity. So I'll give us 5 minutes. So we'll see down the bottom on our screen that we have 4 minutes 55 remaining, and it's counting down for us. And just quickly, if we do look up, we can easily see, just even on my screen up here, that I can see thumbnails of people working, and it's quite easy to make out, you know, how things are populating. All right, I'm taking in these panels now. All right. So unlike before where I got you to submit the panels, I'm actually going to retrieve them this time. So panels 16 and 17 from all the groups, and this time I'm adding them into our current session for better or for worse. All right, so now let's take a look through our work. So I'm just going to quickly lock follow me on so everyone has to go through with me now. So wistful, Mimsy is wistful because Robin said it was. A single fish for a fish, because it's a fish. Or silent, maybe a silent fish. Great. Flimsy, embarrassment, because it rhymes with Mimsy. Anything sounding like Mimsy should be embarrassing. Well, there we go. Angry and frustrated, arrogance. It makes sense. Lol. It sounded like a good fit. Nothing.
Oh.
Which group was this?
How do you check?
If I had saved it to a separate book, it actually is watermarked. If I drop it in the sake of anonymity, it's not. But if I wanted it to be, I could get it. Adjective, meaning angry or irritable. A Jabberwocky is offish, angry, irritable, with fire in his eyes. Well, that's sensible. Mimsy with a borogoves, girly, whimsical, perky, concerned like mums, like mumsy, okay. Sounds like whimsy because Mimsy sounds feminine, agreed. Adjective, okay. Confused, serious, and a bit annoyed, oaf-like, oh yeah. And as in offish thought he stood because it sounds similar to oafish or standoffish, must describe how he's thinking. Okie dokie. Well, now we're going to, again, we can talk through all that sort of stuff, but we're not going to because this is not an hour-long lesson. Lewis Carroll did actually present us with one potential meaning for this, for the opening stanza of the poem. So we are going to go... okay. As soon as I turn off block applications, I'm going to open this on all your machines. There we go. So we have Humpty Dumpty's explanation. Anyway, we can read this at our leisure. I don't want to be running over, but hopefully this gives us. We would then use this as an in-lesson resource to discuss. Well, as we take us on back, because I'm just going to close down that website. I'm sorry, so we're on back with Dyknow. So we would then talk about. Well, could this be another explanation? Yada yada yada. Before I give us our homework, you're not actually getting homework, fortunately. Which, as I showed before, I can use send files, and that would appear on all of your machines, ready for us to for me to take it back in next lesson. So that's just an example using some of the tools of Dyknow across both Vision and Monitor, and mixing it up depending on the context. Now you don't need to use share control in every lesson, and you probably will end up using manage panels for a lot of lessons in which you're delivering through Dyknow. But this is just a bit of a variety selection of some of the tools and how they could be used. I know that tomorrow I'm sitting down with a number of different people and we're looking at our existing lesson resources, how we can rework them for use in Dyknow, and where some Dyknow functionality can come in. So obviously we'll have some more specific things, but just a bit of a taster. But that's it for today. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Wonderful. Well, I hope we know a little something that we didn't before. So fingers crossed. There's one or two things in there.